Be standing. So the quiz on Chapter 8, Section 2 will be this Wednesday. I know you just had a quiz Friday. That quiz you'll get back tomorrow or Wednesday. That quiz, we've moved back a week, which is why we're having the Section 2 quiz so quick after the Section 1 quiz. Also, all right, there's a key terms assignment in the backpack. That's for homework tonight. The classwork assignment is titled History 6 Classwork, Punic Wars. 8th period does not have to complete that assignment. They will complete it on a later date. But you guys are to work on that now while I come around and check the homework. All right. So last week we started talking about the Punic Wars, and just to kind of give a little review of the Punic Wars, because you need to know the causes and effects of the Punic Wars. Hint, hint, wink, wink. Could see a question on the test Monday. Maybe. Definitely want to know them. So let's review real quick. What was the ultimate cause of the First Punic War? What was the cause of the First Punic War? Joe?
Rome and Carthage, they were both expanding with like trading and everything. So
why did they go to war? Why did the first? What did they fight for?
Rome thought
they
fought for land, and Rome thought that
there's a specific land mass that they fought for. You are right, Sicily. Very good. All right, know that the Romans and the Carthaginians fought for control over Sicily, and that led to the First Punic War. So that's the cause. What's the effect? How did the First Punic War end? Sophia in the back?
Carthage won, and they took over Sicily.
Carthage did not win the First Punic War. So if Carthage didn't win, who won? Very good. All right, the Roman Republic, they defeated the Carthaginians. They did lose a lot of ships and men during the First War. All right, the Carthaginians were very successful, but in the end, the Romans win. And the effect of the First Punic War is that they received Sicily. All right, and then the Second Punic War, as you can see in the notes. So there was 20 years of peace, and then Carthage expanded its empire into Spain. And who was at fault for the Second Punic War? Why did the Second Punic War start? Joe?
Hannibal Barca.
What about Hannibal Barca? What did he do?
He attacked Rome.
Very good. He invaded the Roman Republic. He invaded, crossing the Alps with his elephants and 50,000 warriors, marched from Spain through Gaul into Italy, and he's victorious in battle after battle after battle. All right, he doesn't lose one battle throughout Italy. All right, and he embarrasses the Romans over and over again, all right, defeating their legions, even when he's outnumbered. And he is the reason why the Second Punic War started. All right, so one of Hannibal's greatest victories was at the Battle of Cannae, which was south of Rome. Hannibal is never able to capture the heart of the Roman Republic, never able to capture the city. All right, but in 216 BC, 2 years after he invaded Italy, he embarrassed the Romans by defeating them at Cannae when he was outnumbered, heavily outnumbered. The Romans had several legions at this battle, and they thought that their numbers would finally stop Hannibal's advancements towards the capital of the Republic, Rome itself. And he surrounds them kind of in a circle, and thanks to his cavalry, wipes out all of the Roman legions. And there are a few men that survive. There's one man that survives that ends up defeating Hannibal, who we'll talk about on the next slide. So then, the effect of the Second Punic War, so Hannibal has victories, and he's never able to capture the capital. He roams southern Italy for 15 years, destroying crops, destroying people's homes, villages, and towns. And he is defeated by Roman general Scipio. You don't need to know his full name, which you heard in a video on Friday, Publius Cornelius Scipio. All right? That was a common name in Rome, Publius. I know it's funny. You probably don't know anybody called Publius today. All right. I haven't taught a Publius yet. You never know, though. All right. So the Romans attack Carthage, and Scipio is kind of given credit for that plan, for that strategy. And he invades Carthage, and Hannibal is called back to North Africa to defend the city. And Scipio, who studied Hannibal's tactics for years, he was actually a survivor. All right, Scipio was a survivor of Cannae. He fought at the Battle of Cannae against Hannibal, and he was able to escape alive. Hannibal loses the war. He only lost one battle throughout the Second Punic War, and that was Zama. All right, it's kind of like how Tom Brady lost one game back in earlier, what was it, 2007? Lost one game to the Giants. All right, Scipio is like Eli Manning. All right, he's considered to be one of the greatest Roman generals, just like I consider Eli Manning to be one of the greatest Giant quarterbacks, despite what you think of him now. All right, he did defeat Tom Brady and that undefeated team that no one thought they had a shot at. No one thought that Scipio would be able to defeat Hannibal, and he did. And Hannibal is able to escape. He runs away. And what happens to him? Anybody remember from the video? What happens to him? The Romans send legions after him. What happens, Gianna?
He puts poison in a drink and he drinks it and kills himself.
Very good. He puts poison in one of his drinks and drinks it and takes his own life because he did swear a blood oath to defeat Rome, and he realized that was not going to happen. So in ancient times, when you could not follow through on a blood oath, that is something that people did. All right, it's against our society today, against our faith and our morals, but that's what Hannibal did. Now, what is the ultimate effect of the Second Punic War? What is the effect of the Second Punic War? Kate?
They get control of the whole Mediterranean.
Very good. They take control of the whole Mediterranean Sea, but there's a specific piece of land that they receive as a result of the Second Punic War. It's up there on the TV. Elizabeth?
Spain.
Spain. All right, know that they receive Spain. All right, so that is the effect. They receive Spain from Carthage. And along with that, all right, they receive copper, gold, lead, and iron. All right, all of those valuable minerals which once belonged to Carthage, specifically gold, and we know how luxurious from the do now. The Carthaginians loved valuable minerals. They all belonged to Rome. And Carthage also had to pay a large sum of money to the Roman Republic because of the destruction Hannibal caused. So the Carthaginians, Hannibal was gone, and they were kind of facing the repercussions for Hannibal's actions because they had to pay for all those damages. All right. Anybody still working on this slide? We finished this in here, right? For those of you who are on retreat, probably don't have this. All right. All right, so the final Punic War, the Third Punic War. You need to know that there were 3 wars between Carthage and Rome. We know that Rome pretty much started the first one, Carthage starts the second one, Rome starts the last one. What happens is Carthage started to show signs of power. Around 149 BC, Carthage invaded a neighboring city in North Africa, and many war-hawkish members of the Senate. What do I mean by war-hawkish? Does that mean they're like hawks? What do I mean by war-hawkish, Luke?
Like they like war and they want to start wars.
Very good. They like war. They want to expand the republic. They want to assert their dominance over other cities in the world. So these war-hawkish members in the Senate convince everyone that they need to invade Carthage, and the Carthaginians need to be destroyed. And in 149 BC, General Scipio will be sent again across the Mediterranean Sea to the capital of the Carthaginian Empire, Carthage, and they destroy the entire city. Set it on fire. They kill thousands of Carthaginians. Anyone that really survived, they threw into slavery. Men, women, children, older men, young adults. People that resisted, being sold into slavery, they were killed. And according to legend, and to know that they burned Carthage, and according to legend, salt was dumped on their fields where they grew crops. And the salt on their fields basically destroyed all of their crops because the salt dehydrates the soil, sucks all the water out of the soil, and the crops basically died. Right? And that forced anybody who was able to escape slavery, escape being captured, they would have no food to survive on. Right? And the Romans, basically, they started the Third Punic War. That's the cause. They invade Italy in 149 BC. And they're there for only a few years. And the war has ended very quickly. All right, the slave population back in Italy will increase as a result of this. And also, Rome will establish Carthage as a province. And the city of Carthage will no longer exist. Today, Carthage is what present-day country in North Africa? Anybody remember from the Do Now? Begins with a T. Katie? Not Turkey. Tunisia. All right, Carthage is where present-day Tunisia is, and to destroy their crops and to make sure that no Carthaginian that escaped slavery would be able to survive.
Why wouldn't they just burn them like the Carthaginians did to them?
Because that doesn't defertilize the soil. The soil you could still use to grow crops. Salt kind of destroys that soil, that area where crops are growing, for an extended period of time.
Are there other areas though?
Yeah, but you have to travel pretty far. This is just a legend. All right, it's just a legend, so we don't know if it's entirely true. But that's just, a very famous legend people said the Romans did. All right, they were very harsh, all right, to the Carthaginians that were remaining. And then around the same time, the Romans send another legion to Macedonia to conquer Greece in 148 BC. All right, so they add Macedonia and Greece to their empire in 148 BC, and they become the leading power of the Mediterranean Sea. And they refer to the Mediterranean Sea as Mare Nostrum, which means our sea. It's a Latin phrase. Like I said, you're going to need to know a little bit of Latin this chapter, and that's just an example. James, do you have a question before?
I was asking if there was any Carthage survivors. Do you think that maybe some of them would have traveled to Rome in disguise as a Roman? Would that be possible?
Possibly, but there were no records of that happening, at least. Many of them were thrown into slavery, which we're going to talk about, how that affected Rome in Section 3. Make sure you understand the causes and effect of the Third Punic War. Cause, Rome invades Carthage. They felt like Carthage was gaining power again. And the effect, Rome is able to establish Carthage as a province. Right. So looking at this map, you can see how Rome expanded from its beginning around 500 BC when they overthrew the last Etruscan ruler. Anyone remember the last Etruscan ruler? Who was that? John?
Tarquin the Proud.
Very good, Tarquin the Proud. And then by the start of the First Punic War, what was the Roman Republic? How much land did the Roman Republic have? Joe?
120,000 square miles.
No, at the start of the First Punic War. You know the mileage of the Italian peninsula? No, right? So they pretty much had the Italian peninsula at the start of the First Punic War in 246 BC. Want to grab the door for her? Thank you, Faith. And then by the end of the Third Punic War, you see that they've added Spain, Carthage, Macedonia, Greece, Sardinia, Corsica, and Sicily. All right, all over the course of those 100 years, a little 120 years. And you'll see that they added more land following the death of Julius Caesar in 44 BC. And in Section 3, we're going to talk about how Rome came to conquer all of North Africa, parts of Asia Minor, and Gaul, which is modern-day France. So we're going to start Section 3. I know we don't have much time. The fall of the Republic. And does anyone know what this is a picture of? All right, to start Section 3. Yes, Lauren?
It kind of reminds me of the picture of George Washington signing the Declaration of Independence.
This is a much more harsher time than that. is the death of Julius Caesar, the assassination. All right, so just, we'll get up to this in section 3, and you can see all these senators here. You don't really see Julius Caesar, but he's being killed on the floor of the Senate. All right, so a little different than George Washington signing the Declaration, which is fine. I can see how you see that, but a little different. So starting section 3, we're going to talk about how the Roman Republic, all right, some of the effects that the Roman Republic experienced after the Punic Wars. And in the 100s, many of the farmers that were out fighting the Punic Wars are going to suffer from poverty and debt. And one of the reasons why that happens is because so many of these farmers were no longer working their lands, and because they were fighting in the last Punic War, or going out conquering, or they're sent out to conquer Greece or Macedonia. And if you can remember back and earlier in section 2, every single citizen who owned land had to serve in the military. All right, so, and the women really were not capable for upkeeping these farms, so a lot of the farmers they owe taxes, they owe money to the patricians that own the land that they're working on, or they're trying to pay rent. And what happens is they have to end up selling their land, all right, and moving to basically rent out something that they can afford. And the patricians start buying up all of this land that the plebeians, so these are farmers are basically plebeians, they sell all their land to the patricians, and patricians start using these lands to create large farming estates called latifundias. And the patricians are even going to become wealthier because there's a new source of labor as a result of the Third Punic War. And if you remember what we just talked about, how many thousands of people were enslaved by the Romans, specifically Carthaginians, those people will be sold into slavery, specifically to patricians, and patricians will use these people who were once prisoners of war, and they'll go on to make up 1/3 of the population in Italy. All right, the slave population grows tremendously as a result of the Third Punic War. All these slaves are now living in Italy, working for the patricians, and patricians are able to make more money as a result of having slaves because they don't have to pay their workers, just like they used to have to pay plebeians that worked some of their lands. And many Romans that sold their lands will start heading to the cities. This is supposed to be an arrow. I apologize for that. And they're looking to find work, and a new class of people are going to emerge during this time. Sorry for the bell. That is the end of 6th period. So we'll stop here for today. Copy down what you can on this slide, and tomorrow we will pick up and review anything that we went over today. If you have any questions, you can ask me in the morning. You can ask me in class tomorrow. I'll set some time aside for that. And if you miss anything, you can always watch this video. It'll be up on my website. I hope all of you have a nice day. You may now take out your key terms and get started on that. If you completed your key terms, there is the assignment, the classwork that the 6th period did at the beginning of class. That will be due for you tomorrow. I would ask that you complete that, read the worksheet, and complete the one question at the end. I hope all of you have a nice day. Again, if you missed anything, you can watch this video on my website. Have a great day.